Welcome to mypersonalfootballcoach.com's Soccer Player Development Podcast. Discover all the secrets, hints and tips about soccer player development and soccer coaching from some of the leading figures in world soccer. Here's your host, Saul Isaacson Hurst.
Hi guys, Saul here. Welcome back to another show, and this week we've got a top guest. It's Hasney Aljofree. Now, Hasney spent over 10 years coaching at Man United's famous academy, and look, as we all know, Man United is one of the best academies not only in the UK but in world football. Unbelievable track record of producing top talent. So great to get a real in-depth idea about what goes on behind the scenes there, both on the grass and off the grass. And look, Hasney's he's a class act, and really privileged he agreed to come on the show and give us a real in-depth insight into this top academy. And listen, this one's just about sitting back, enjoying it, and listen to all this coaching gold. So I know you're going to enjoy it, and without further ado, let's get into the show. So Hasney Aljofree, welcome to the show.
Yeah, good to be here. Looking forward to having a bit of a chat with you. Yeah, thanks for inviting me on.
Could you give us a brief outline of your playing and coaching journey up to this point?
Well, yeah. Thinking back, I'm getting a bit old now, but yeah, started out at I was a young lad, 8 till I was 16 at Man United. Got released at 16. Went to Bolton. So I was 16 to 21. Managed to make me debut in the Premier League for Bolton Wanderers. And then it was a great start to my football journey. Went up to Dundee United. 3 seasons up there. Great time up there. Signed for Plymouth Argyle. Probably the best part of my career down at Plymouth Argyle. Had 5 great years there. We won the league. Every year was there. The club did really well. Had a couple of loans in between as well because I had some injuries. So I went to Sheffield Wednesday and Oldham. And then I came back. And then, kind of the final part of that, I signed for Swindon Town. Had a really good start there, but I had a bit of a terrible injury at Swindon Town and kind of, struggled to, after my first season, I guess, maintain form after my injury. And then I finished up at Oldham Athletic, a little short-term deal, and that was the end of me. I had like 7 operations on my knee, so that was it. And then I went into coaching. I went to coaching at Oldham Athletic, worked with their under 14s and 15s, along with their reserve team. And then I was offered a job at Man United. I think it was 2011. And then, I had near enough 10 years there working in the youth development phase and working right across from, I guess, 13 up to 19 as a player developer within all the age groups. So this last year, I've joined the PFAs as a coach developer. So a little bit different now. So yeah, it's in a snapshot, that's where I'm at. So I'm a year in actually today, funny enough, at the PFA.
Oh, well. Happy birthday for the anniversary. What position did you play, by the way, Hansi?
I played a varied amount of positions, if I'm honest with you. I never really settled in a position. Probably it was till it was Plymouth Argyle who really saw me as a centre back at the age of 25. So when I was at Bolton, I was a left back, left wing back, centre midfield, centre back, and that kind of happened. Went to Dundee United. It was a left back, went to centre field. Signed for Plymouth, left back, centre back, and then that was it. Centre back seemed to be the most favoured position, and then kind of the best time when I was settled around 24, 25, funnily enough.
Wow, and gone to Bolton to Dundee United to Plymouth. That's like you've done some miles there, by the way, haven't you?
Absolutely. No, it was an interesting kind of a start to, not just a start to the journey, but I kind of found a relationship with the manager at Dundee United in Paul Sturrock. He wanted to sign me up at Dundee United, and we instantly hit it off as we kind of got to know each other. And he subsequently he signed me for like 4 clubs. In the end, he gave me a name.
Oh, wow.
Years. Yeah.
Wow. All right, so let's get into the coaching bit because it's a coaching podcast. Let's talk about your first coaching experiences at Oldham. What was that like, making that transition from the pitch to the dugout, if you like, or the pitch to the training environment?
Yeah, like a fish out of water, if I'm honest with you. Had no idea what I was doing. I was kind of like, what's going on here, But I think the good thing for me was I was open-minded and wanted to learn and wanted to get into coaching, but I was certainly, I was probably below a novice, if I'm honest with you. I came out the game, all right, probably 17-year career playing the game and captaining and all that. But then I all of a sudden went into work with the under 14s and 15s. And then obviously with the reserve team, you're like, not really sure what I'm doing here. I'm not really sure, that even at Oldham, there was I think it was a school teacher who was running the 14s and 15s, and I was literally learning off him, learning how to coach, what he was looking at. I had no idea, kind of like, I've not had this mindset for a long, long time in terms of development and breaking things down. So that was that initial stage was wow. But because I was very fortunate, I had a bit of a dual role there. I kind of enjoyed working with the youngsters, because actually it was like, it was challenging, it was motivating, because I didn't really know what I was doing at the start of it. And then, because obviously the other side of the reserves, it was like I was still playing, talking the normal football, and it was straightforward. But yeah, I kind of got a passion or a bug for kind of that the younger stuff. So that was the initial start.
What about, like I mentioned, I always ask this question, like in terms of how did you come about when you had to do your first sessions? I mean, what did you draw on from? Was it your experiences and first team level? Was it just watching what the other coach put in, or did you want some coaching courses, or how did you come up with those first ideas for those sessions?
Yeah, I mean, I think they probably came back from experience of my own personal probably coaching, being coached, within first team environments. Obviously going on the coaching courses and picking up some bits of information, and obviously watching what's going on around you. But I think initially it was like it was basic. It was what I knew, with no detail whatsoever, no idea about coaching. It was just putting a session on. The difference between training and coaching, as you know, it's so different. So yeah, I was putting a couple of training sessions on with no development. It was just putting them on. And so that was the initial phase for me. It was like, looking back, it was like, it was crazy, but you have to start somewhere, right? And I was thankful for Oldham to give me that opportunity to get in there and just get my feet wet and try and find a way of progressing in that career.
What were the main, like reflecting back, what the main takeaways? The initial things you really thought, oh wow, yeah, this is the coaching, those tips or those first initial that light bulb moment. Think, oh, this is different. There's those first things you picked up in that initial environment. Yeah,
no, I just thought it was the idea of child development. It was the idea of supporting others and helping others, opposed to all being about yourself. As a footballer, as you know, it becomes it's a bit of a bubble of you and what you're going to do, and it's all, how can I be the best? And all of a sudden then you've got like 15 to 20 to 25 youngsters around you who are dependent on your knowledge and your skill and your craft. So it was that kind of stark moment of, right, wow, you need to, if you want to get into this world, you need to do the time, you need to learn, you need to break yourself down. And I think that was really key, actually looking at the young kids' faces, and it was like, I'm not going to bluff these. I need to really, if I want to be in this world and try and make a bit of a pathway for myself, I need to educate myself and learn and, and kind of get around people and digest information as quick as I could.
So how did that work then in reality? What did you do to upskill yourself in that when you're first in that environment?
I think very much informally, getting out and about, watching, friends from football, going into different clubs, as well as working at Oldham. I was getting out and about, talking football to people, and I was very fortunate. I had an ex-coach at Man United who was still there, a guy called Tony Whelan, and there was another one called Paul McGuinness. They were still at United from when I was a kid, and then I was going into Man United and observing them and taking notes, and I was almost sharing ideas, and they were quite curious about me and what I was doing at Oldham. And then, after, I think it was around 8 or 9 months, I was going in more often, and I was just like, I was blown away by the environment. I was taking knowledge back from there and starting to pin things around, making some kind of ideas with myself and taking them back into Oldham. And then, it happened quite quickly, but that was the main source of information. And I was kind of getting fed a lot of incredible nuggets by these guys. It was gold dust, So 8 months into it, 9 months into, we started having some informal conversations about going into working at Man United. I was like, wow. So that was it really. I was kind of getting out and about. I'd done my B license. I just finished it off. They put me straight. They wanted me to go straight on my A license. I could get on it. I went on my A license. So in terms of formal education, I was doing my badges, but I think informally, getting out and around football people, and initially started to learn how to coach, and and then like I say, going in at Man United was incredible for me. It kind of really did strip me back in terms of, right, okay, you need to understand these certain things. And I was falling in love with coaching. I keep, anyone ever asked me, you have to fall in love with something to be the best. And it referred back to when I started playing the game. It was that moment when I was going at United, I started to fall in love with like the environment, the people. It was a world-class environment there. So people were always
yeah, because Paul McGinnis has been on the show, and he's obviously, I've come across an EA license, like unbelievable, first class, one of the, like a proper inspiration. So I mean, that's really important, isn't it? I mean, I'm lucky as well when you work at clubs like that, people who are to learn off, like you say, who have that aura about them, right, and who have that, you just hang on every word almost, those personalities. So just a bit more about that initial then. So you had those conversations. What was your first role then when you went into Man United?
I was supporting quite a lot of the programme. Officially was down as an under-15s assistant coach. I was working with another guy called Andy Smith, who was fantastic. He really kind of guided me and mentored me to start with. But I would probably say Tony Whelan had me, he was kind of head of coaching, Tony, and he had me working right across from 15s, 14s. I would be going in as part of my initial training. You'd be a part of the whole club, really. So you'd be going in with the foundation phase and learning and being around the coaches there, and across the 12 to 16s, and even up with the 18s with Paul and Warren Joyce, which was 21. So every day you'd be listening, you'd be learning. It wouldn't be like you'd be sat here. You'd be talking football with football people. So it was informal, but I would imagine very formal from their point of view in what they wanted to do with me.
Tony Whelan, another football legend, by the way, obviously well known in the academy landscape. So tell us about what's your initial, you talked about that environment, the coaches, what are the other things that you noticed? What are the difference between the environment at Oldham and the environment at Man United?
I mean, look, Oldham were a fantastic football club, and the resource they had was limited. It was kind of very, very much basic, and what they had with the maximised the time. I think they had one football pitch with maybe 3 or 4 groups on, in an evening. Everybody just, kind of just getting on with their own stuff. And then obviously going into Man United, as you can imagine, it's a real joined up approach with a vast amount of staff and, a varied amount of, from all disciplines. And the resources are unlimited, and the facilities incredible. You have a full pitch, and you can have 3 or 4 different types of pitches. It just went from one extreme to another extreme. But I think from even both areas, both clubs, it was striking that, if you wanted to be a part of development and coaching kids, it wasn't around winning games and being a first team player type. It was, you need to understand development. So I think if I was to say, there was a lot more staff around at Man United who've been there a long time, who, like you say, the Tony Whelans, who are probably cultural architects, been there, know what it means to people. The incredible human beings, very humble, hardworking, honest, caring, giving. And if we go about Tony Whelan and Paul's the expert probably on the grass, and the detail that Paul used to break it down to was minute, and you're like, wow, I would never even think of that at all. It was absolutely like fine art. And I know he's still like that today. And then obviously you've got he's almost like a father figure, Tony Whelan, just head of coaching, but he just incredibly incredibly kind of gracious. He was just a fantastic human being. It just made you feel at ease all the time. And then again, the academy manager was Brian McClare, and he was Brian McClare to me. It was like, wow, Brian McClare, so watch you in the stands, and another great guy, a guy who just wanted you to do well. But all of them were focused on, it was development and technique and skill, and the kids were at the forefront, not the coach.
Great. So let's talk a bit, get into detail then. So you go in as under 15s coach initially. Tell us a bit about them. What do the sessions look like for a 15-year-old at the time? You go in there, give us an example of a typical session for an under 15 at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was coming to the final bit around the youth development phase. So there'd be, you probably, this probably start off with some kind of sports science warm up. There'd be people around that from that department to start off the session, just because of the physical profiling aspect. And I think from that point, the club had core sessions that were created by staff. around that age, and I think you maybe have 8 to 12 core sessions, which would, after your normal boxes, there always be like the staple diet would be boxes and technique. It's technique and skill. It was broken down into the boxes to start with, but then you probably go into your core sessions of, depending on the type of time of the week. So the club had so many, and then you finish up with games, and hopefully like it was very basic, but it was very much broken down into detail, and it wasn't a training session. So yeah, it would have probably in 3 parts, maybe 4 sometimes, but certainly start with some type of quick warm up, not too much, but then into the boxes, lots of ball, lots of skills, and straight into the possessions or the skill practices where you're looking for the lads to really come out and show what they've got.
I guess give us an example of that. And so you say boxes, what's happening in the boxes? Do you mean
like
a rondo type of thing? Little rondo, yeah.
Yeah, like your rondos, but again, it wasn't just a 6v2 or a 5v2. It'd be, the focus was still on like, your weight of pass, your appreciation, giving it the best pass you can, everybody on the toes and checking your shoulder left and right. And, it wasn't just staying in the box and a bit of fun. It was skill development. It was high level. And the 2 guys in the middle chasing around, but like not just running around like rabbits. There was an art to the defending as well. So right from the off, it wasn't just we're coming to train. The rondos were, you trying to improve your technique and skill under high pressure, and the guys who were, I guess, chasing, working the hardest to win the ball back, but with an art behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. Go on, sorry, mate. Go for it.
I was going to say, look, I see a lot of boxes and a lot of people saying, "Oh, we're just going to do boxes," but there's so much you can get out of a box of a rondo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed. I mean, and people often criticize rondos because it's maybe not directional, because everything's in the modern day has got to be directional. But like you say, the different aspects of it, faking for your receive and disguise, and like Paul McGuinness talks about a lot. All those little elements you can get in there is great, isn't it? Just getting a Tesla. So you talked about those. I'm trying to, everyone more interested in what really goes on in the grass. And you said about these sample sessions or had a core group of sessions. What would that work then? So, for example, give us an idea. How did you choose what you're doing? Was there like a technical tactical cycle? Was it something different each night, or how was that? How was it structured in the week or the months or something like that?
As my time went on, it became a little bit more. I got a tactical periodization as my time went on within the club. But initially, it was purely a technical program without any real focus on a tactical, if you know what I mean. You was maximizing your time on the grass and improving skill. It was all about skill, and the game was the last. It wasn't even there was no thought around the game, no thought around we need to pull this into the bigger picture. It was just you're maximizing your time each night you're in, and it's all going to be a skill, whether you're defending, whether you're attacking, whether you're in transition. Focus was technique, skill, and it wasn't really too much linked to the game. And then,
so give us an example then of give us an example of some practice you could just one of those what one practice might look like. Sorry, I just push you because this is what I'm nosing myself. I don't know what you guys do. You're one of the best academies in the world. It's like when you're doing all the details.
I mean, look, I'd say, look, you've probably all seen that you can have anything from a box to a rectangle, but it's what he was doing within that. So I think one of the core practices was we called it a 7v3, and it was probably around a 20 yard long, like an edge of the box. So byline to edge of the box with like maybe 12 yards wide, and you'd have 2 down one side, 2 down the other, 1-1, 1 in the middle, and 3 chasing. But everyone down the side was one touch, and it was all around pass appreciation, checking your shoulder, staying light on your toes, and working as a 6 to find the ball and feed it into the number 10, so to speak, in the middle, the creator in the middle, and find the right time. And then that guy, once he gets the ball, how he can manipulate the 3 against him and play around him. And it was like, that was probably a typical session of high quality, of getting the lads to get up to that level of playing one touch, and finding that right pass at the right time to get into the guy in the middle to then go and play around. And that was high level, but that was probably one example of one of the sessions out of maybe, I think, there are 12 sessions of type of pure technique, skill. And then you'd look at the 3 and you think about the 3 and the focus for them guys. It wasn't just defenders, it was everybody. It was a mindset of working hard and chasing and pressing, and first man goes and the next 2, what are you doing behind? So I'd say that was a typical session, and that evolved over time. That then you started to use the little pods towards the end. If the three win the ball, they can wrap out as if they've won it. They wrap out to a goal, so it's like a counter attack. So, like I say, right at the start, the initial phases, there was just designs around. There was to create what was going in within the area. So it wasn't, like I say, it wasn't so much direction all the time. It was more the technique, skill under high pressure. And how you deal with the ball.
You mentioned the off the ball there. I mean, I was always struck. We used to, when I was Tottenham, we used to come play you guys at Repton every year, and in Derby, and when I was at Chelsea as well. Come always have fixtures against. Always noticeable. Like always very hard-working boys, very skillful, high-level technique, but also that very tenacious, hard-working. I mean, you mentioned it there when you talk about. Is that really part of the culture there in the academy and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think like I say, I think without hammering it home to the young kids as they come in the building, but it's part of, like you say, it's the culture there. It's to give everything you've got. You know, you turn up and enjoy what you do, but work hard and make sure that when you've left, that you've got nothing really left, you know, to give. It's on and off the ball. It was all football, but yeah, you kind of be left behind if you wasn't going to be working hard. So I think obviously the coaches who like the Tony Whelans, you know, and the Paul McGuinnesses, they knew what to expect and the levels from us, the rest of the coaches, and then what we were supposed to kind of like input on the kids. But yeah, I mean, you can't help yourself when you go into Man United and not enjoy yourself and work hard. There's something wrong with you. So yeah, we were quite fortunate, Man United, and like I say, I think they called it, like, you know, if you've got players that are coming through, have been through the system all the time, and they're all still around the place and they come and watch, the kids automatically want to work hard and do the right things anyway. So yeah, it's like, it was fantastic, but I think it was derived from the environment that they were in.
Tell us a bit about then. You become U13 head coach. That's your first head coach role. What was that like in terms? What was it? You know, what were the pressures, or was there any pressure, or what the difference between being a head coach and an assistant, and as now you're in charge of the group and that sort of thing?
Yeah,
probably. What the challenges? Maybe a better word there.
Yeah, maybe just you starting to understand now what, you know, game time for kids, and making sure that, you know, you're selecting. You know, you're not just selecting on your own, but you're selecting, you know, teams to play where, yeah, you're given the correct opportunity at the right time. And it was an interesting process actually from the start, because whereas you might think, oh, you're under 13 head coach and you're picking from the under 13s at Man United, I'm sure other clubs, it was more of an individual program. So you wasn't just selecting players from your age group. It was what was the right player for the right team at the right moment. So you was, like you say, then all of a sudden from supporting coaches and you're more like a technical coach. You start to, I guess, then, you know, interact with all the other coaches and making sure that you're involved with the planning process for each player, making sure that they're on the right games program. So the last thing was about winning the game, but obviously the winning aspect was always going to be there at Man United, but it was more providing the right opportunity for the right individual. So that communication and planning, it didn't happen on a Friday or the Saturday before the game, Saturday, Sunday. It was planned, you know, maybe a long time before. So
also, tell us a bit about that, about the off the field, the planning stuff. Then, what was the, you know, for example, you're under 13 head coach. What would be your sort of typical week, and how do you liaise with the other departments? And like I say, how does that planning process work in terms of getting it from the ideas to the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, look, as you can imagine, there would be a lot of planning. There'd be a lot of meetings in terms of, you know, the coaching program, the syllabus, and to the games program, what's coming ahead, to the tournaments and who's doing what. So there'd be constant planning meetings and just to make sure you're in check with other coaches. And yeah, I mean, look, probably a good example would be someone like Scott McTominay, who's now first team. His program was very much varied in terms of who he would be training with compared to who he would be playing with. So he might be training with the under 15s, but sometimes he might play with under 14. So yeah, I mean, look, there's probably too much to tell you right now, but the week itself was, you probably come in on a Monday morning, just to reflect on the weekend, and then you look for the week ahead and just making sure that we're all still aligned. But you planning the training sessions, but you kind of half knew what you was doing with the training. It was just making sure that each player had the right program, and you'd be going through it, every player, in terms of how they kind of like, you know, not just perform, but how they are. What do you think they can, you know, cope with going forward? And yeah, that was meticulous, and that was no stone unturned with that. And just to make sure that, you know, that kid was getting the right training program, the right games program, because like I say, it wasn't about winning, you know, having your team and I'll have the strongest team here. It was about making sure it was the appropriate game and training program for each player. So that Monday morning, and that continued all week, just to make sure that we're all on the on the same page. And then, like I say, as that kind of went a little bit further on the 13s, you start to understand the dynamics of making sure that the responsibility feeding back to parents and making sure the players understand what's going on, and the communication becomes even more important, that, you know, you're on the right page with everybody. So you're not working on your own. It's every decision's kind of a collective.
And you mentioned about like the winning and development thing. So tell us about that then in the, you know, 13s, 14s. I mean, how do you approach that game on the weekend in terms of juggling that winning v development argument, and how you setting up the boys and, you know, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, look, like I say, the training program itself, or the coaching program, it was designed really to push players, and you know, they won't know that, but, you know, you wanted winners within that. You wanted the ones who didn't like to lose the mini games, or, you know, the ones who, you just wanted everybody to be kind of at the not at the peak, but just at the tip of like the iceberg, to say like, oh, we're giving everything we've got. And that kind of, without us saying it, you started to create something within the player. There's some kind of a feeling inside that they want to win, without having to come out with them, we want to win by all cost. It became part of them as a human being. That, and then obviously the Man United culture from the history, and they've always been winners, and you can, you know, without saying it, it just breeds itself. So it was kind of like the secrets behind the scenes of the training program, and the communication, and, you know, even the psychology around, you know, walking around the training ground and meeting the players, and going to the stadium, looking at the trophies, and going to Old Trafford and looking at the pitch. And there was a lot of subtle things that were happening, which were, you know, kind of breeding that kind of environment of wanting the lads to be winners, but that had to come from within.
I mean, because obviously I've seen a lot of I've seen United play a lot in the foundation and the YDP, but in the foundation you notice particularly the black guys who stand off, they're minimal, if any, you know, inputs, let the boys play, let them get on with it. So I'm interested, how does that work in terms of, you know, the transition from foundation phase to YDP to PDP, in terms of when do you become a bit more active, when does winning become a bit more important, and when you need to help the boys more, and that sort of thing?
It's interesting, like, you know, like I say, from the start of my journey, the 10 years at United, it kind of changed with management, and not massively changed, but certainly early on. Early on, it was similar in the YDP. Really, you wasn't really vocal from the side as coaches, and think the coach behaviour was kind of told, like, let the players try and work out themselves. There was very limited tactical information, if any. You know, you turn up to game day it's a 13, 14-year-old. So, like you say, the little ones in the foundation phase would be playing 3v3, 4v4, 9v9, whatever it might be. The coaches are letting them play, and it would still be something similar. We'd set them up in a shape, you know, usually when we started out 4-4-1-1. But you wasn't told to do that. But it was almost a kind of the Man United way. So yeah, it was like, you know, some limited bits of information, no real set plays. Go and find out yourself. Go and work out yourself. And that's what happened early on. Certainly when I was 13, 14's coach, that was the case. But as you know, times move on, and other clubs were starting to bring whiteboards in, and, you know, there's a lot more information around tactics, and you start to think to yourself, well, do we put a little bit into that? So, you know, there was an element that was starting to creep into the training program, maybe towards the end of the week, where actually we'll have a look at the game. But again, not demanding the lads to win games. It was more, like I say, the environment against, you know, we'd set up a team against maybe a City or a Liverpool, and there might be a little bit more information around the meaning of the game, and let them guys work it out. But like I say, I think over the journey of my time there, it became a little bit more prominent, the tactical aspect and the psychology behind, you know, maybe winning, a bit more demanding as you would do as you're getting older.
That'd be my next. That was going to be my next question. You sort of touched on it when you say you are playing Liverpool or City. What's that like in terms of, like, you know, your week preparation? I've discussed on the show many coaches, around the world, those derby games, and do you try and take a little bit of sting out of the tail of the fixture, or you're building the boys up, or you're reminding them, what it means that those guys down the road, we don't like them lot, sort of thing? Or how does that how did that play out?
Yeah, I mean, look, when the little guys, it's probably a little bit more fun oriented, but as you get a little bit more older, it's the meaning behind these games is this history, right? So you might use them as long as it's a joined up approach and an agreement between all the staff. Like, we'll have key games where there might be more tactical information as they get older. There might be a bit more emphasis on the game itself and how you approach the game, and you might have a little bit of an opposition analysis maybe at 16. And you might look at these types of games and go, look, there's a bit more demand. You might look to play your strongest team, for example. That might be part of your program. Not saying that's what happened, but yeah, you might look at certainly at Man United. We use the bigger games as maybe a vehicle for a little bit more of a different approach. So it wasn't always the same technique, skill, and enjoyment and freedom and go and explore. It was maybe a little bit more drip fed then, in terms of as they're getting up the ladder. It's going to be becoming a little bit more prominent as they get older. So it was that process of where it started and how much he was going to give.
Do you reckon particularly, obviously, as time moved on and City became more prominent, bigger, more money invested, and was there any sort of within the club saying, right, well, this fixture is more important because in terms of recruitment, for example, I've been there, at the clubs, Chelsea Arsenal game in London, maybe it wasn't as people maybe not admit it, but it's reality, like who's got the two biggest academies in London going at it, and maybe the conscious of thinking, what does that look like in terms of parents and awareness, or is it like, we're Man United, we play this way, whatever happens, whatever?
Yeah, I think it was tough to start with when City went pretty big and invested, and Chelsea also. We were, I wouldn't say difficult, but we found it very, very challenging. Certainly when it came to game day with these guys, we were getting panned quite a lot. But I think internally as staff, we always look to have the best player. We wanted to say, but make sure we got the best players, because we wasn't developing teams, we were developing individuals to try and get through to have careers. So like I said to you at the start, it was more important for us to make sure that each player was trying to do the right things at least, and and by the end of the game we'd have the best player, one or two on the pitch. So they were very much starting off. Both clubs were starting off tactical information earlier, and as you know, like when that happens, yeah, they're probably going to get more wins on a Saturday or a Sunday because of the more game kind of tune. So we found that difficult to start with, but we I don't know, behind the scenes it was, I don't know, there was maybe a lack of investment into the club where we were losing out on players, but as coaches, and all our jobs was to develop players and what we had in front of us. So all I can do is speak around that. I can't talk around the recruitment and the investment and what happened with City and stuff like that in detail, but we used to always make sure that we would maximise our time with who we had. And certainly we did that. All the coaches were fantastic and made sure that, like I said at the start, it was around giving the players opportunity, making sure that there was freedom to explore. It wasn't just around you playing this position. We're going to do this, and that's how we're going to score, and that's how we're going to win. That was never the case at the time. But like I say, as times moved on, I think staff changed around and people left, and yeah, you start looking at what are we doing? Can we add to the program? Do you think that if we added this, we can help them there? So I think that was a good thing. United were always looking, they're always looking to improve all the time, and yeah, not being, I don't know, what's the word? Not shy enough to go and see, what are others doing? Like, go and research. And yeah, we had a bit of a sticky patch, to be honest with you. It was a tough time because, like you say, are you losing players because of the perceived winning on a Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean that's the problem, isn't it? Because obviously, we can all as coaches talk about it. It doesn't matter. We're developers. We're not around it. But as you know, the pressures of recruitment and academy football are high, isn't it? And I can imagine, like from looking from the outside, United being the big dog for so many years, really unchallenged, really. And then suddenly there's all these other could be quite challenging, I imagine. From that perspective.
I mean, like you say, Man United, they win. And from parents, they're not really, I'm a parent myself, but, you see Man United, always want Man United to win games. But I think, like I say, until you're in there, you realise actually it's not winning is important, but it's the way of creating that environment for them to understand what winning, how to win, what it means to them. It's not, and then all of a sudden at the right time in the key areas when they're a little bit older, then because it becomes a bit more real. So I mean, I don't know. It's interesting now because, like I said, looking back on it all, we had a bit of a tough time on match day because of, like I said, the recruitment kind of stopped, or there was lack of investment for whatever reason, and maybe a lot of players weren't joining United and going elsewhere. But we always maintained what we was doing. That we had the best program. It was an aspirational program. We had lots of players coming through the system, players coming out the other end, not just in our first team, but all over the country. And the stats were proven with that they were coming out. So, I think our aim was always the end point wasn't about winning on the Saturday or the Sunday. It was about how can we navigate and not mess up the journey of that individual and take them as far as we can. And Tony was great. Each parent meeting, he said, look, enjoy the ride. It's Man United. We'll do everything we can, and they'll see the world. They'll have some fantastic experiences. And, most years, if not all years, at some point we'll get off our train. So if we're on a train, you want to get to London, we're in Manchester, it's probably more certain that you're going to get off at some point, maybe Birmingham, but enjoy the sights as you get to Birmingham and get off there and get on another train and find your way. But we'll take you as far as we can. So, I think there was kind of that psychology behind the meetings. We told people that we were always giving the messages around, look, we'll just enjoy your kids. And getting to the parents, it's not first team football. It's a childhood that the youngsters should enjoy and not get caught up in having to, like, it's that you're a first team player. So it was interesting, but like I say, I think from that aspect, it was always going back to the individual, always going back to that bespoke program, and finding a way and a pathway through as far as they can get to within the club. And if not, if they left with all the tools in the bag to get somewhere else.
Interesting. And like you said, I think that's the key, isn't it? It's educating the parents, isn't it, to say, this is what development looks like, not necessarily winning on the weekend. Absolutely. Yeah. So just about that then, because you've gone to get to work, to do some work with the under-19s, UEFA under-19s league. Tell us about that then, that challenge. And obviously the results come important, it's more competitive. Tell us about that experience with that age group.
Yeah, I think again, that was more, now you're talking a little bit more around that aspect of there's a demand now to win. You're in a Champions League kind of tournament now. You're setting your team up, start of the week to get to a point of, right, we're playing whoever it might be, Wolfsburg on Saturday or the Tuesday night, and you're preparing like a first team. So that was like the ending of that kind of journey of, like, okay, we've not saying you're finishing your technical and I guess your core sessions, but what you are edging towards now, like you say, there's a design within your week leading up to the game where it's built a little bit more. Well, it's a lot more tactical and a lot more demand psychologically. Each player now has a role within the team in their position, and I think obviously that's probably the top end of that spectrum where you're looking at actually the final bits, the final little bits of learning the game without actually knowing it all properly, but there's a lot more tactical information there at that point. So I mean,
what was that like for you personally? Did you enjoy that experience with a little bit more the competition and having that little bit more, all right guys, this matters? What was that for like you personally as a coach and when you were delivering?
To be fair, I found it a lot more comfortable for myself, maybe just purely because of the career myself, and in that environment I just felt probably more at ease. It just seemed to be seamless for me when I worked up there and kind of supported that arena, if I'm honest with you. I thought for me personally, it was very much more natural to be around that. It was talking to lads in more football kind of language, and giving them tips around the game. It seemed to be, it was that journey, like I say, within the club. It's probably very unique. You find yourself, you're supporting lots of different things all the time. So whilst I did that with the 19s, I was still running I was involved with the 16s and being involved in the youth development phase as well. So you're not just pigeonholed in one area, if you know what I mean. But that moment or that time whilst I was at United, that was a really good, I guess, part of my journey in terms of the learning and finding out actually what did I personally feel, how did I feel from that experience, and I started to have them feelings and going like, actually, I really enjoyed with the little guys and working through that kind of process of going from the younger ones up through. Yeah, and that seemed to be the next obvious challenge for me going forward would be to try and be around that a little bit more often.
Tell us about, for example, what are the challenges then? For example, game day, you're making those decisions on the sideline, or you're just supporting players, and it's, I suppose it's that more acute, isn't it? Those decisions actually matter that much more. What was that? Was that like was that challenge? Was that pressure, or something you enjoyed, or what were the things, the main takeaways you took from those sort of experiences?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's probably a lot more focus and exposure on the older guys. Certainly when I went with the Champions League squad, you could see obviously the first team staff were around, and there's a lot more demand on performance and a lot more, I guess, pressure on the results. So yeah, I guess that he was probably paying attention to detail of the opposition and understanding what their strengths were, and making sure that you prepare properly in terms of rest, recovery, your analysis information, the lads who are playing or not playing, making sure they understand what their roles were within the team, and yeah, having some kind of ideas on the opposition in a different league. So yeah, again, it was really interesting for coaches and for the players. It was, yeah, I think it's like anything when you wake up in the morning and it's almost something new. There's a challenge there. It motivates you, and you want to try and find out how to I guess solve it. So it's, yeah, I think they were for me personally, and certainly for the players, they were key moments of development of learning. So yeah, I think obviously working in that environment for us all, there was always going to be opportunities to fail, make mistakes, and reflect and move again going forward, and trying to take the good from what's happened.
Give us an idea of what it was like on the pitch then, delivering on the grass with these guys. What was your role, and what sort of things were you delivering? Was it that much difference to what you were going in the YDP, or was it just
just maybe a little bit more tactical, if I'm honest with you. It wasn't me really leading it. It was more like Nicky Butt, and there was other staff supporting that process as well with the 19s. I think the club shared the roles around, and making sure like staff had CPD opportunities as well to get up there and work if they wanted to. If not, they could just go and watch and observe. But certainly for me, I really enjoyed working like with Warren Joyce with the 21s and with the 19s and 18s. I found that was the next obvious step for me to keep learning. So yeah, I mean, it was a really enjoyable experience for me, and like I say, you just bringing yourself back towards the real game again, like a full circle really of learning and breaking yourself down, understanding what development means. But I think the training wasn't so, you're still looking for the fundamentals. You're still looking at what, your passing, receiving, your dribbling, your awareness, your checking your shoulder, your timing, your runs, all the technical skills that the club were adamant on. They were all still being spoken about at 19, certainly.
Interesting. And so tell us a bit then you were under 17 technical coach as well at that time, and 16's head coach. You've got lots going on. Tell us about that technical coach role. Obviously, how did that work in effect, and what sorts of things are you delivering?
Yeah, so around that time, I was then asked to lead on the it was called the Manners program, which is like the schoolboy scholarship. So you have the best 10 to 13 players in the academy, who was in the academy. So we'd sign from national, so we'd get players from London or wherever. You'd have a nucleus of maybe the best players within the academy at that time, in a group that were being housed by the club, were being schooled by the club, and then we're coming in full time. And I was kind of leading that program, which was really good. It was interesting, and I took the 16s, and then I was supporting the 17s as a technical coach. So it was a very busy time, but a time where, lots of fantastic opportunities to learn, and it was great for me to, look, some of the players that I was coaching and being around, quite a lot of them I've gone on to have, they're all in the game now. Most of it, I think most of them are in the game, and they're all having great careers. And I think I was fortunate to be around that. I was learning around that. The Manners program was
what was the program called? Sorry,
Manners. So it's MANNUSS. So all
right.
Yeah, that was the Man United Schoolboy Scholarship Program. So if you get like the old schoolboy one at 14, if you sign a schoolboy, you're almost getting a YTS or an apprenticeship. United kind of changed it into Manners. So Yeah, it would be if the club had an aspirational program. So you'd have a core program, which would be normal, maybe Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Then you'd have a hybrid type of program. So if you had your Tuesday, Thursday, if you're doing really well, you might get another day. You come in like maybe on a Wednesday afternoon or still Saturday, Sunday. And then if you went into the manners program, which was a third tier, the highest tier, you would literally have your own training program and dip in your own age groups or an age group before that you were suitable to, and play either Saturday or Sunday. It was a very complex program, but again, all going back to the players' needs. And again, I think when I was running that program, I was always involved in that program right from the start. Tony Whelan and Paul used to run on that program, and I kind of was a technical coach from behind, but then I managed to lead it. But within that time, I was supporting the 17s program. So you'd be looking at the best 16s of even 15s moving up to the 18s group. So as a 17s type of coach, you're watching that transition happening all the time, up and down.
Did you do any like individual stuff then? But as a technical coach, would you work with players individually, or that's small group stuff?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, so that's what I was going to get to. So in the end, if I wasn't doing the 16s or the manners program, my technical job would be, I'm taking individuals, I'm taking the units, probably more the back four, or maybe the midfield group. It'd be more, like you say, technical on the grass, in the positions as well. So called them clinics. So that would be my role with the 17s. It was that transition from the 16s up, but also supporting the 18s program with more probably under 17 players and getting kind of some individual work and some unit work done with them as well.
Could you give us an example of something in some individual work you might do with a player, any position, for example? If you've got pull one player out, you've noticed something you want to work on. What might you be? What sort of stuff would you be doing?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's pretty straightforward, really. Let's just say centre back. It's not all about performance, but you always look into. I think we had an ILP process, so your individual learning plan. So you always worked off that. So say centre back always wanted to improve, or you needed to improve his defending, or 1v1s, or jockeying, or if it's heading. You'd be going through the kind of like looking at clips from the analysis, but not clips in a way where they're so negative. It would be a mixture of clips, maybe four really good, 4 where you can work on, 4 where you talk about, and then you go out and start working on them on the grass as well. And you just continue to evolve over time and keep that process going, really. So it was pretty straightforward in terms of like, it wasn't all about game day and reflecting from the game day and taking action, but sometimes you use a game day and you'd look at the game in terms of what they've done. And then, you'd sit together, you'd have a talk, you have a cup of tea, and you go through the clips a little bit, and then we'll devise, it wasn't just coach led either. Me and the centre back, there's one who's now on loan to Birmingham from United, Ted Menga. He was brilliant. He was very much forthgoing. He wanted to know more. He wanted to be a part of the process. So he, between me and Ted, we devising kind of, little practices and little skill practices, whether it be defensive heading or, driving out the ball and wrapping balls into little pod goals, whatever it might be. So it'd be very much personal, building relationships, but very much, again, against the ILP that, what they kind of agreed on from the start of the season.
Paul mentioned that there was like a cage or something, little thing where all like the best players would go and only the best players would get in there. And he talked about Rashford playing with Pogba and all those playing younger kids playing with older kids. Tell us a bit about that and what's so great about that environment.
Yeah, I mean, that like I say, from when I started, that's where that phased out towards the end. But that was an incredible environment for the players to be around. So that manners group that I spoke to you about when I first joined, they'd be a part of that on a Monday with the 18s. So the 18s have their training program, the manners would have theirs, and then come together towards the end of the training session. The cage would be there, and the cage was it was a incredible environment for the players, and some players had to watch from the side if they couldn't get in it. So I think Paul had it at 13v13. It'd be incredible, the speed, the skill, just the passion within the cage was just fantastic to be around, if I'm honest with you. He got it going, and like you say, he had that environment where the older ones would get to know the young ones, the manners kids who were getting invited in there, and so all of a sudden you see the little ones who were around the edge of the cage really to start with, and then as they get a little bit more confident, a bit older, they start edging in and competing within. and being a right part of it. So yeah, you know, what I thought was an incredible opportunity for players to really develop and, you know, gain friendships and all the rest of it. It kind of got taken away because there was some information from some of the regulations were like, well, you can't play with a 12-year-old, with a 16-year-old, or 13-year-old, with an 18-year-old. You're like, what are you on about?
Safety nightmare.
Yeah, what you want, you know. So we had it was a controlled environment, you know. We was around, no, we weren't coaching, we're just around the outside of the cage, sat down watching the lads, and honestly, they drove it themselves. It was incredible. But then all of a sudden you're getting all these, you know, the policies coming out, like, what's so that we kind of lost that. And I don't know if they got it back now or what, but that was an incredible environment, and obviously an opportunity for the lads to really get to know each other and show the skills. And like you say, you had the little ones who became like you say, you got Marcus, who became really pally with Jesse, and other people who were younger, like Angel Gomez. I remember him. He got really friendly with Marcus and other people. It was an opportunity for maybe best v best and best with best. But the program always, like you say, if that was there and you was in Manus and you had the hybrid and the core, he was always aspirational, not just dependent on performance, but, you know, how you was developing as a character. And the door was always open. It was never shut. You couldn't get there and you couldn't get there. The door was always an aspirational program to try and find yourself through, you know. And it's not.
How did you do? Sorry, mate. I didn't try to interrupt. How did you deal with then? Obviously, you got the Manus program and the core. I mean, you've obviously, you know, you got the elite program and obviously sort of players underneath that. How do you deal with players and parents who are maybe not in that, or is it just a case of that? If you're good enough, you get in it. If you're not, you've got to work harder.
Difficult. That was something I was trying to find, you know, a little bit of a. I don't know. I found it hard to. It's almost like when it's not excluding kids, but it was more like that inclusivity. Some kids were being left out, and I'm like, whoa. But then I started to think, well, all the kids are coming in, they're all going on tours and tournaments, and they're playing. They've got all the kit, and they get all the training, and they get everything. It's you keep giving them because they ask, you know, there's got to be some element of you got to fight for this. You can't just take and it's okay to expect. So yeah, it was difficult. And as you say, the parent education meetings there was quite a lot of them. Whether parents, you know, like it or not, you know, if your kid's not in a certain group, they're always going to be knocking on your door. So they want to know why. But I think the club were always trying to be upfront and honest and open to everybody. And give that idea of, listen, you know, it's Man United, you know, it's Man United, so to speak. You've got to get to be the best, you know. If anybody's going to get through, you've got to be the best, and you know, it's not a given. So it was
essentially, isn't it? Because it's like, sorry to interrupt, right? It's like it's, you know, it's an elite environment, isn't it? And you're the Man United, the elite of the elite. It's like the top and the top, and it's I don't think it'd be as much issue in other sports if you say, well, hang on, maybe you're not in that group yet. You're not quite there yet, you're going here, but some reason in the football is more people more apprehensive saying, well, actually, no, it's all got to be all inclusive. Everyone's got the same opportunity when actually, you know, it's merit based.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's never going to be easy when you've got your own child and you want the best for your own child, right? It's when however, somebody might say anything to you, but it's never going to be easy. But like I always used to say to everybody, go and enjoy your time, maximize your time. You know, you could be doing something so different. You know, Man United is a special club. You're lucky to be here and have that mindset. You know, be thankful for what you've got and work hard for more. You know, that was kind of what I used to talk to the kids about, and certainly the parents when they spoke to me. You know, if you look at the stats as well, the lads who are, you know, not making it and falling out of the game, and they're very, very high. So just enjoy the ride, and I think that was the good thing. Like the people like Tony Whelan, they kept an eye on making sure like nobody was left out. You know, everybody had their fair crack at the whip, and I say in terms of life experiences as well. If you was traveling the world, like the club went to incredible places like Hong Kong and LA and all over Europe and America. You know, it was just an incredible, like you say, every kid who went into that environment was given fantastic opportunities.
Interesting. Can you tell us a bit about the foundation phase? I know you never worked in it, you did the stuff of the trials, but I mean, did you spend much time? Just tell us, because it's, you know, you've had a famous program there. Tell us about that rough little bit of overview of what the youngest players are doing at the club.
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw, and it was more around the environment. It was more small-sided games, more freedom. No real focus on, none really on tactics, which I totally believe in. It was more, the skill on the ball, ball manipulation, massively focused on technique, creativity, imagination, freedom, fun, enjoyment. These are words, but this is what was happening in the Cliff. It was the Cliff that the lads were going into, and you go in there, you could just a massive buzz of loads of little small-sided games knocking around, and very limited in interactions or stopping from the coaches. It was just play. Might be 1v1s, 2v2s, 3v3s, maybe up to 4v4. Maybe they might finish with a 6v6, but very limited in terms of training sessions and being coached and what to do and how to do it. It was more freedom of setting the scene and letting them get at it.
Interesting. And just move on quickly, just briefly then, you're now working for the PFA. What's that like now, working in coach education? You've gone from player development to coach education. What's that like?
Yeah, it's interesting. Similar process though. I think you need to break, like I keep saying to the lads who I'm coming across now, it's lads who are either in the game or coming out of the game. You've got to break it down. If they want to, I think, if they want to learn, they've got to try and understand development. They need to know what development means and that process of development and go on the journey. I think some are fortunate to go step straight into management and whatever, and a lot might want to do that, but there's got to be a mindset of being open and growth, and you want to learn and try and understand it doesn't just happen. I think a lot of them come out of the game like I did and just put sessions on and think that's what you got to do. But I think the process of development and technique and skill and breaking it down, of understanding what that means from the four corner model, if you wanted to use the FA's model, there's areas for every player to look into, and every coach to look into each player. Sorry, it's interesting. It's because I'm still learning myself. I think it's just trying to shift mindsets from being an individual about me into, if you're going to be a coach, you're thinking about lots of other people and lots of different things. I think a lot of them are okay on session design and putting something out there. It's just more the art of coaching. And I always keep saying that you're building relationships, the communication skills, the empathy that you have with others, and that takes a bit of time to understand. So that'll be interesting to see how that pans out for me, how I try and get that across.
What about yourself? And what's your aspirations for the future? You've had obviously a long career in the game. Would you like to get back into academy football, first team football? What's a long-term vision for yourself?
It's a good question. I'm not too sure if I'm brutally honest with you. I'm really enjoying this because this last year has been a real eye opener for me, because I've managed to get out and about and watch lots of football from different football clubs. With my job, it's totally different to what I did before. I'm working with scholars from 7 clubs. I go into 7 clubs first teams. I'm on B license courses. I'm on A license courses. So every day is a different day, and I'm very much happy to learn. I'm one of them people. I'm like a sponge. I like to see things. I like to watch. I like to listen. I like to talk, reflect. And I found like it's given me opportunity to get up every day and go and find what the day's going to bring, opposed to having a normal day, if you know what I mean. I know what I'm getting to. I know what a normal week might be. Every day seems to be different. So it's, like I say, it's been really enjoyable, but you just don't know the future, do you? I think, like I say, I'm talking football to good football people. Like even having this now with you, it's great to talk football and get things out. I mean, I've not spoke about my time at United for a while, actually. I don't even know if I ever spoke about it like that to anybody. So it's, yeah, I mean, look, for me, who knows? But like I say, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing right now. I like to give. I have empathy to others. I like to see others doing well, and I think, like I say, if I can help one coach or one guy coming out of the game going into coaching, and it does okay, then happy days.
So on that one, then, what would your one bit of advice be, or main bit of advice for a young coach coming out, whether he's an ex-player or just a young coach who wants to get involved in academy football development at the highest level of a great career like you've had in the game?
Yeah, I think you've got to throw away your ego. and not being like lose your identity, but you certainly got to be open-minded to listen, to learn. And I think like if you have a mindset that's it's open and ready to take information in, I think like the world's your oyster. It's the ones when you almost get caught up in your own. This is it. This is my way or the highway. It's if you adopt an attitude that you can learn every day, and take little nuggets off anybody, whatever it might be, good or bad, it shapes you for a better future. So certainly talk about open-mindedness, a bit of a growth mindset. I did a course a little while ago with Carol Dweck. She wrote the book Growth Mindset. And it was a game changer for me. And I think like if you adopt the attitude, even if you've done something good, how can you get a little bit better? It keeps you on that kind of edge to be the best you can. And I think it's limitless. So like I say, I think open-minded, be ready to listen, be ready to learn, share your ideas. There's many ways of achieving greatness. It's not just one way. And enjoy the process as well. It's football, right? You're out and about, aren't you? So it can't be bad.
Well, and I assume you're a United fan, right? Obviously, spending so much time at the club.
Yeah.
So for your sins, as they say, I'm an Arsenal fan, so there's a bit of mutual pain going on here. But so the big question is, who'd you rather win the league than, Liverpool or City? Which is the lesser evil?
It's a tough one. That no, I think it's City for me. I think Liverpool's always been my hope. That's just a real tough one. That, but no, City. If it had to be one of the two, it'd have to be City for me. I've got a lot of family who are City fans as well, so I think they'll be happy with me saying that.
On that bombshell, lovely, Hasney. Thanks very much, mate. It's been fantastic. Thanks for your time, pal.
No worries. Great to do it. Top man.
Thanks for tuning in to the MyPersonalFootballCoach.com Soccer Player Development Podcast. MyPersonalFootballCoach.com's Dynamic Ball Mastery Program is the world's leading online individual technical training program, proven and developed at the highest level in the English Premier League. Sign up now to train like the pros and take your game to the next level. Master the ball, master the game.